Hi guys, it's Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft. Okay, answering a question in the Percussion Revolver series of steel frame versus brass frame. What do they mean by shooting loose? Okay. In a nutshell, why the guns were produced in brass in the first place was a cost-saving endeavor, predominantly during the Civil War and quite often by Confederate revolvers. There were a few northern revolvers that also relied on it. It was because you could cast the brass frame, just like they had made furniture for earlier muzzleloaders. But the steel frames normally had to be milled or worked out. So it was a cost-saving thing. The disadvantage to brass was it was a softer metal and it would get out of frame, get out of shape, stretch over time and thus lose it. So I have two Colt copies here, two Colt examples. This is an old Griswold copy from the 1970s, brass, made by Navy Arms, and this is my Pieta 61 Navy. Now they're both Colt designs as far as the action goes. This one being a steel frame, this one being a brass frame. And some people have been confused by, if you'll notice, there's a model pattern to the steel frame. That's called color case hardening. In modern terms, that is not actually color case, it is actually a finish that's applied. And that is because to color case, what they were doing back in the day was, you would take an iron product, they would take bone, like cow bone or stuff like that, they would put it into a crucible, they'd bring it to extreme heat, and they would create carbon. The parts would be then packed into this carbon and reheated. Once it reached a certain temperature, carbon molecules would go from the charcoal, the carbon, into the iron, creating steel, making a surface case hardening, meaning the surface was hardened. This made the gun more resistant to rust and wear and tear in the field for black powder revolvers. It made a very pretty pattern as well, and it was a way of early gun makers to show a higher quality. We've taken the time to color case harden it. Okay? Now, back to the brass. The brass frames, being softer, when you fire one of these open top Colt designs, the pressure hits and the cylinder is forced backwards where it bottoms out. At the same time, the pressure hitting the barrel is pulling forwards. So you have forward, back at the same time. This stretching action causes where the cylinder base pin to screw in back here to pull forward a few thousandths of an inch. What happens is that when you sit here and you look at it, it does not look that bad. Once you start firing, that pin starts pulling forward a few thousandths. Now, let me give you a very clear example of this one has shot loose. What they mean by that. Okay. You will look at the cylinder gap right here between the cylinder and the back of the barrel. I'll make sure as line it up as I can. I'll even cock it and show you. Shoving it all the way back, there's barely the thickness of a piece of paper. I can see light between it, but that's about it. And you could barely take a piece of writing paper and pass between that. Now, this is a gun that has shot loose. There is now a gap almost the thickness of a dime between there and there, and what that allows is gas and pressure to blow out of here once it fires. This one is right on the borderline where it's not safe to shoot anymore, and that's what happens when you shoot these guns in the long run. Now, old Johnny Reb here is, like I said, I bought it in the 1970s. God knows how many rounds I put through it. And eventually, yes, it has shot loose. It's the metallurgy of this. This is not truly brass. It is actually a gun metal, and it's a bronze alloy, we'll call it. And so, if it is softer, because you bought the cheapest gun. Those that are $125 on sale, you can bet it's going to be the cheapest brass. They're going to shoot looser, faster. On the other hand, if it is a gun that is a higher quality, etc., they probably have put the money into this and it will last a lot longer. Yes, it will eventually shoot loose. It will never hold up as well as a steel gun, but it does have a cheaper price. Now, the solid frame Remingtons, for example, you quite often see them in brass, and they will go much longer than the Colt style before they shoot loose, because that top strap holds it rigid and it's at 2 points held instead of it's only the center axis that's held. So it will eventually shoot loose eventually. How long? I can't tell you that. It's how much shooting, how long a time, what was the quality. There's just too many variables. But in a nutshell, if you're wanting a gun that looks pretty and it's cheap and you're wanting to play with it and you're not going to shoot more than, say, 1,000 rounds in a year, brass frame will be fine, modern production. On the other hand, if you're one of those that want to get into competition and you're going to shoot hundreds of rounds per month, go with a steel frame. It'll pay dividends in the long run. Now, once you've got a gun shoot loose, what can you do for it, Blackie? Very little. Can it be tightened up? Technically, yes. Technically, that center base pin can be made shorter. A different base pin can be fitted that's a grunt shorter. The brass back here can be peened in, etc. But usually the price of getting a competent gunsmith to do all that is going to be more expensive than a new brass frame revolver. Don't think of them as disposable, but think of them that they become wall hangers. Now, old Johnny Reb here, which was my carry gun for God knows how many years in the field when I was a young man, is a treasured sentimental remembrance. She doesn't shoot anymore. I may take her out once a year to do it. She resides now in the gun safe, and she's just a cherished memory. For my daily shooting chores, that's where these come in, the steel frames. I hope this helps clarify a little bit for you guys. Please leave any questions or comments below, and thank you for being so supportive of this series and this channel. I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day.